The wonderful number 7. Conny Méndez. Introduction. The number 7 symbolizes the state of totality, and indicates that a special stage has been passed, at a given moment. Everything in creation goes through 7 stages of activity. Then automatically comes a moment of rest. 7 is an end point that forces a rest, to then begin a new series of 7 steps. Our Sun has 7 planets in contour, because it is governed by the number 7, and scientists will soon discover that every other planet outside the original 7 does not belong to our system. 7 are the colors of our prism, 7 the musical sounds, 7 the days of our week, 7 the gifts of the Holy Spirit. 7 are the months of gestation, so that the human being can live in the air. 7 are the ages of man, 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42 and 49, to achieve his maturity, authority and freedom. 7 are the steps that every manifestation goes through, from the moment in which the desire is expressed, until the demonstration becomes visible. 7 times the length of your head, is the measure of your total height. If you have more, or less, you are not harmonious. Now I present you in this book, some other little-known 7s, although very important for your spiritual development, and your evolution in this system. I assume that you have studied and put into practice the instruction contained in the 2 little books of metaphysical text, entitled, Metaphysics for Everyone, and I Give You Anything You Want. If you have not done so, you will lose much in understanding it, since this is a graded teaching, which awakens cells necessary, for your understanding and realization. There is a maxim that says, when the disciple is ready, the master appears. If you are interested in this book that you have in your hands, it means that the time has come for you to acquire this teaching. So begin at the beginning so that you will not lose anything, and so that you will make good use of your present incarnation. It will not weigh you down. The Lord's Prayer. We are going to deal with the prayer that binds all religions. It is called, Our Father. Master Emmett Fox says that this prayer is a compact formula for spiritual development. And that it was composed by Master Jesus with great care, for the specific purpose, to effect a radical change in the soul. The prayer is in 7 parts, or clauses. First clause. Our Father, who art in heaven. The poorest of fathers, see to it that his children do not suffer, lack nothing, and if the father is rich, he watches over his children, and helps them in proportion to his wealth. To be in heaven, is a condition of perfect bliss in every way. If the Father is so blissful, so perfect, so opulent, that he lives and abides in the heavens, it stands to reason, it is certain beyond any possibility of doubt, that he will have secured his children against adversity. This is the idea contained in the words, who art in the heavens. Take it, meditate upon it and use it in all the circumstances of your life. As it is the truth, it will set you free. By pronouncing the 2 words Our Father, you will be admitting, confessing, and affirming that your Father is also the Father of all. You will be admitting, confessing and affirming that we are all brothers. You will be praying for your neighbor, and fulfilling the law of love. For everything that follows in prayer, will have been preceded by this requirement, that you will be asking for them on behalf of all of us. Say it with that intention and blessed are you. The Son must always be of the same nature as the Father. It is not conceivable that a horse can beget a goat, that an ant can beget a bee, that a bird can hatch an orchid, that a man can give being to a mouse. If the Father is divine spirit, with all gifts and powers. If he lives in a state of grace, whereby all that he desires, idea, affirms or decrees is instantly manifested, the Son partakes of his same blood, nature, gifts and powers. It cannot be otherwise. We are the sons in heaven, in a state of grace, and all we have to do, is discover the way to manifest it. I am teaching you how to manifest it. You are in heaven, if you wish, and it is not that you have to become an ascetic, a martyr, an anchorite, nothing like that. Live in your world. It was assigned to you by the Lord's Prayer. Enjoy your heaven, but remember to give thanks, and say once a day the first clause, with all the attention and intention, of which you are capable. Second clause. Hallowed be thy name. The name of God is, I am, you know it. The Spirit said it to Moses, when he asked him. You know also that you must not, nor can you qualify that name with anything, other than perfection. For if you say, or think I am, any negative and imperfect affirmation, you are lying, and the punishment is the manifestation in your person, of that which you have dared to affirm. By pronouncing the 4 words of the second clause, you will have expressed the desire that your brothers, your fellow men in Humism, keep the name of God sanctified, as it is. In other words, you are already launching the image and vibration, of a language purified of all lies, of all infamy, of all falsification, error, disease, of all imperfection. When you repeat the prayer, think the truth of this clause, and may the Father hear you, brother. Third clause. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done here on earth as it is in heaven. I told you, the Father's intention, the Father's will for his children, is perfect. Your wisdom, his love, his omnipotence has arranged it so, but his infinite justice, has also arranged that no one and nothing shall interfere, between his children, and the desire they express. Such a wise parent, knows that a child is guided without compulsion. He is taught without forcing him, and that he has to suffer falls and blows, in order to learn to walk. In the kingdom of heaven, the child is sovereign. No one restrains him, everyone respects his freedom and his desire, but teaching him with immense love. The child soon learns, that the elders do not speak to bother him. That it is always to warn them of something that, on the contrary, will save them from an unpleasant consequence. That is the condition of the kingdom. So when we say, Thy kingdom come, we are asking the Father to make our relationships with our brothers, teachers, guides, neighbors, etc., pleasant. It is love that rules in the kingdom, that dictates behavior, that gives tireless understanding. The will of the Father, is that the teachers teach us by radiation, by direct inspiration to the heart, so that we have an evolution without delays, without stumbling blocks. The will of the Father that we pointed out in the first clause, is the one that ruling in the heavens, we wish to see it here on earth, and it is the one that we ask for again, in the third clause. Fourth clause. Give us this day our daily bread. The word bread, is symbolic of all that we may need at this time. It is known that bread remains fresh, only one day. Tomorrow it will be hard and tasteless. That is why the phrase says, daily. We need it today. The Father has arranged that everything we need, as we feel the need, will be given to us. Everything is already arranged. The clause says it, our bread, and everyday bread. At the same time, we recognize that it is ours. Not only yours and mine, but of all. We are right there, asking that each and every one be given what is necessary, at an opportune moment. Do not panic because you think that something is going to be delayed, that things are not going to catch up with you, because you are afraid that they will be finished before their time, etc. You just have to face this apparent need, with the phrase that heads this clause, or gently claim yours, Father, you spoken that I had this. I wish in harmony for all, under grace and in a perfect way, that it may be manifested, thank you Father that you already heard me and always hear me. The proof that everything was granted to us before we asked for it, is the following, surely today you have everything covered, don't you have enough money to cover your needs today? Well, tomorrow will be another today. The same next week, or next month. Do not worry, for the Father has said, before they call I will have heard, and before they have finished speaking, I will have answered. Fifth clause. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. All the faults that we commit are always the misuse of the divine energy, which is given to us by tons every minute, in every heartbeat. We have great debts with the Father, because we have wasted his energy, sometimes squandering tons of energy, in attacks of anger and violence. If we ask the Father for forgiveness immediately, the damage is not so great, the punishment does not materialize, first because, sin acknowledged is sin forgiven, and second, because the Father has always already forgiven us. It is we ourselves who have to forgive ourselves, and this we do, by recognizing that we have failed. Now the key point of the clause, just as we forgive our debtors. As you behave towards your neighbor, so you can expect the Father to behave towards you. However, it is not the Father directly who gives you the reciprocal, but his laws and principles. The Father is always mercy and forgiveness. It is the laws that give each one his due. Jesus composed the prayer with such mastery that we, when asking for forgiveness, if we have not forgiven our brother before, the request will get stuck in our throat. We will not be able to move forward, and we have to go out and fix things as soon as possible. If you are one of those who see that everything is hindering you, that everything you undertake you are struggling, with gigantic struggles, do not think of saying that you are unlucky, or that you have very bad luck. Lies. What happens is that you are hard on your brother, you have not forgiven someone, or you continually blame others for your failures. Forgive everyone first. Force yourself to say this phrase, before you lay your head on your pillow at night: I forgive everyone who needs my forgiveness. I forgive myself, and I ask forgiveness from the Father. And let your words be sincere, absolute, broad, for if there remains in you any small resentment, against someone or something, it will be a wall between you and the Father. A wall between you and the manifestations of peace and prosperity. In no way, repeat the act of forgiveness that you do to someone, because it would be like recognizing that your forgiveness does not have great validity. Whenever it comes to your mind, always say this: I've forgiven him already. Sixth clause. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. The Father does not send us temptations. The truth of this sentence is that the more elevation you have attained, the more susceptible and sensitive you become, and powerful and subtle temptations await you, against which you must be on guard. The worst of all is spiritual pride. It builds a wall of steel between the individual and his God. Against this we must often affirm the famous saying of the Master Jesus: I am meek and humble of heart. The latter tells you that it is the request of the heart that is answered. You ask, do not let me waste opportunities to do good, you will see how you are protected against waste. Then sit you ask, that you are not allowed to fall into those subtle temptations, you will be cared for and protected, because well clear the Bible says, if the Son asks bread from the Father, he will not give him a serpent. They say that the worst of sins is the one of which we are not aware. Ask the Father to show you your hidden faults. Ask the Father not to let you fall victim to such things as working for your own glory, or exercising personal preferences, in your help and service to humanity. Ask and it will be given to you. Knock and it shall be opened to you, seek and you shall find. Deliver us from all evil. This needs no explanation, but above all, ask to be made to understand how real is the so-called evil. It does not exist, since the appearance of all evil is simply a state in which the negative pole reigns, which only lacks the positive pole to become the evident good. There cannot exist something which does not have both poles. Whatever is expressing only its negative pole, is balanced and seems to disappear, when it is polarized with the positive one. Seventh clause. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory. Wise and powerful affirmation. With it you are forced to recognize the Father, as the only presence and the only power. It forces you to dissolve spiritual pride, the last of the faults to overcome. The example of the tremendous punishment that this fault entails, has been given in the fall of the most glorious of the angels, Luzbel, who became Lucifer, for the sin of pride. This must be an allegory, because no master names such a character. But whatever it was, the last affirmation of the Our Father carries the mission to free us from the last of the dangers, provided it is said with intention, fervor and sincere devotion. The 7 aspects of God. What is the difference between science and religion? The former represents divine wisdom, and the latter represents divine love. Just as that which we call God, or the Creator, is one indivisible, all creation is one, seen under its innumerable prisms, or infinite manifestations. Science and religion are one, seen under 2 different characters, as we shall see later. They form a circle in which the one becomes the other, and the other becomes the first. Let us first study the 7 principal aspects of God. God is life, love, truth, intelligence, unity, spirit, principle. In booklet number 1 we call the aspect, unity, soul. It is only a matter of preference. God is life, God is everywhere. Life is everywhere, life is God. It is its first aspect. Life is indestructible. So death does not exist. There is only the transformation, from one form to another. It is childish to think that God is a man with human characters. The human form that we, the inhabitants of this planet, present is only for this planet. Life manifests itself in a form appropriate to its environment, just as in water life exists in the form of fish, to be able to circulate and move fluidly, in the water element that surrounds it entirely. Just as in the water element, lungs that inhale air are not required, so too, on other planets where there is no air, the inhabitants are shaped in a different way, to humans on Earth. It is absurd to think that because the heat on Venus is not bearable for a terrain, it means that there is no life there. Life manifests itself everywhere. In a small pot of earth, life emerges in the form of a little weed, because that is the form that life takes in such environment and conditions. God never changes, because he is principle, and a principle cannot change. Life, then, it is not possible for it to become death. It would be a contradiction in terms. Life cannot be death, nor can death be life. So what we call death is not true, for that which pretends to contradict a principle, is always a lie. Death has no permanence, but life has. Death is a transition from one state to another. From one state of life to another state of life, it is understood, that is, that the individual ends with a stage of his evolution, and graduates to another. Evolution is continuous, and never stops. Thousands of years from now, you will be alive somewhere, evolving, changing and transforming your being, with knowledge and powers infinitely superior to those you possess today. Think that the same thing has happened to every human being who has passed through this planet in its trajectory, in its evolution. It is urgent that you understand what I have just told you, because later on you will know truths that will surprise you, but before which you should not face in a state of disbelief. Those who today cannot understand that other planets are inhabited with life forms that are adapted to the particular chemical conditions of the planet. These are those who are in the situation of the frog in his little pond, who has to deny the tops of the trees, because he cannot see them. Life is invisible, and what we see are its effects. God is invisible, but we see him everywhere, through his manifestations. You must therefore keep your mind open to recognize the possibility of everything, no matter how strange it may seem to you. Life has 3 unequivocal conditions: health, joy and enthusiasm. These 3 equal happiness. Daily give thanks to the Father because you have life, because he is manifesting himself through you, in his life aspect. Your heart is beating, so you have God, the life, present in you. The beating of the heart is the first proof of life. This is a meditation. Meditate on life. The more you think about it, analyze it, the more you will manifest it, the more joyful you will feel, the healthier you will be, the happier you will be. Sadness is the loss of the sense of God in us. When we know that God is our life, that He cannot die, that He is joy, health and constant happiness, we cannot give room for sadness. The Bible says, "The children of God shout for joy." It also says, "The joy of the Lord is my strength." When you feel sad, start thanking God, that the truth is life and joy, health, bliss, and in a few moments, you will feel different. Life is movement. Children are full of life, and they manifest it in their restlessness. When there is a sick person, heal him thinking that he is life, life is health, he is God, and he cannot be sick. He is moving, his heart is beating, therefore, God is manifesting in him. Mentally challenge him, you can't be manifesting a lie. He will be healed. Against indifference, lack of ambition, apathy, blaseness, conformism, stagnation, backwardness, paralysis, polio. Speak to them mentally, and tell them that they are lies, that they have no power, because the only presence and the only power is God, and God is life, enthusiasm, health, energy, bliss. Truth. Let us give as aspect 2, truth. No matter how they are placed, all aspects are one. Truth is an imperative presence, eternal and constant. No matter what lie is being represented or spoken, the truth is there, living, present. Call it forth and it will manifest. It is a living entity, because it is an aspect of God. It is God Himself acting. Someone said, in the midst of the loudest clamor, where God is being loudly denied, He is silent. He does not assert Himself. But call upon His presence, and you will see His manifestation. That is because He is the truth. The absolute truth. Where you witness a relative truth, recognize that the absolute truth is present, and you will see it with your eyes. Where someone tries to convince you of something that you are not fully accepting, tell the situation mentally that the absolute truth is in it. Then you will see something happen that brings it into view. Jesus said, "Know the truth, and it will set you free." Notice how He treats her, as a person, as an entity, as a she. Truth is the great healer, along with the life aspect. When you need information, when you suspect deception, when you are about to sign a document, when a trial is in progress, an opinion is being expressed, or you suspect deception, etc. Affirm that truth is in all circumstances, for truth is God, and it is everywhere. You will see truth manifest itself, and before it all is silent. One lie forces another and then another, and another. It also forces to be speaking and protesting. One truth overthrows all that was falsely affirmed before, and all remains silent. What happens when someone rushes at you accusing you of something? If you did it and you deny it out of fear, the situation becomes impossible for you. You will have many accusers, and you will find yourself involved in a very complicated shouting match, and you will not see the end of it. Instead, accept the accusation and say, "It's true, I did do it." You will see the accusation vanish, along with the anger of the one who was attacking you. You will see him ashamed of his own violence. You will see him praise you. You will see him become your soul friend. Never deny anything out of pride, or not to look bad, or out of fear of what may come upon you. The truth of God. When you confess it, knowing that you are invoking it, you will see the divine spirit at work among men. Truth is always on your side. Accustom yourself not to fear it. Truth cannot force you to lie, as for example, when you are faced with a case, where telling the truth brings you into trouble. I mean, when the truth involves another, betrays some shameful thing, invoke it and say to him, as one who invokes God Himself, "Save me. I do not want to harm anyone. You can neither force me to lie, nor cause me problems out of loyalty to you." And you will see the dangerous situation vanish. The recognition of God and truth will save you hours of work and fatigue, when you are looking for information, or things such as a lost object, a place, a house, a person, etc. The information that is needed will come to you in some form. Something will happen that will compensate you. Love. You have heard it said a lot, God is love. Love is also invisible. All aspects of God are invisible, but all are absolutely real. We see the effects, and we cannot deny them. So when someone says to you, I am an atheist, I don't believe in God, you will say, liar, I don't believe in God. You will say, bullshit. Because that person loves someone. His mother, his son, or his dog. You always love something, even if it is nothing but your own comfort. There is a preference. There is a distinction between good and evil. There is a recognition of the good. Then, one believes in the good. So you believe in God, even if you are not aware of it, because God is the good, God is the good, God is good. Jesus said, do not call me good, there is only one good, God. God is everywhere. The good, is in everything. The key number of our universe is 7. It is composed of 3 negative units, and 4 positive units. It is the same to say 4 white and 3 black, 4 good and 3 bad, 4 units of light and 3 of darkness. The fact is that good is always greater than evil. The positive is greater than the negative. The angel, more powerful than the devil. And by blessing the good contained in the 7 units, the good is increased, because you know that what one blesses, is magnified. It is a power that we all have, even the most ignorant. By blessing the good, the content called evil disappears. That which you bless, immediately shows you its good aspect. You have recognized the truth, you have praised God, and that frees you from the evil that is bothering you. Pueblo. Don't believe me without checking it, it is very easy to check it. You only have to say, I bless the good in this situation, or condition, and I want to see it. You will be amazed at the result. This is to love the good, it is to love God. It is love. If you want to stop someone from hurting you, just say mentally, I wrap you in my circle of love. You will see it change instantly. Wrap your house in your circle of love, and everyone who comes near it. They will never be able to steal or damage your property. To those people who are tormented because their partner is being unfaithful, or simply because they have fallen in love with someone else, let them say, thinking of their rival, I wrap you in my circle of love. Let them persist, until they see the wonderful change that occurs. It is not indispensable to feel this love, it is enough with the goodwill to express it. Goodwill is love, and divine love never fails. But we must understand that divine love is within our heart. It cannot be manipulated from the outside in. Life being within the heartbeat, all the virtues of God must be there, and as this is truth, by affirming it, it begins to externalize. The 7 aspects of God, intermingle and manifest, either separately, or together, but all are united, and are within us. This is the higher self, or the Christ. The truth. It is not true, then, that we are bad. This is only a false belief, but as we manifest all that we believe, we manifest hatred and evil, by believing ourselves to be bad. Begin to decree that you are a perfect daughter of God, with all His virtues, and you will begin to manifest them, where before you manifested lies. In the booklet N²2 of the series, Metaphysics Within the Reach of All, there is a per-exercise of Master Emmett Fox, to develop the divine love. It is simply a series of affirmations of truth, and it will transform you. St. Paul said, you are transformed by the renewal of your mind. That renewal is what statements of truth, affirmations based on divine truth, accomplish. When you are transformed, may you retain no rancor, no hatred, only goodwill, towards everything and everyone. may you feel no desire to see anyone punished. May you never think with respect to anyone or anything, well done, he deserves it. You will be able to heal just by pronouncing the word, and in many cases, with your presence alone. This does not mean that you will approve a wrong act, but the child who breaks a valuable object is not hated. He is taught, the act is reproved, but not the actor. There is something of utmost importance. You must not allow yourself to be cheated or abused for anything. Many believe they are expressing divine love, they believe they are forgiving, when what they are doing, is covering up and even helping, to commit mistakes. This is nothing more than becoming an accomplice of the offender and participating in his karma or punishment. Protect your right, but without violence. Forgive and forget, but do not applaud by approving the mistake. Cure. Fear, criticism and condemnation destroy, prevent your treatments from taking place. If your prayers are not being answered, it is certain that you have not removed the resentment towards someone, towards something like an institution, or religion, a memory, something. If you are not getting rid of your fear, for whatever reason, it is because you are breaking the law of love somewhere. Love is not simply feeling, it is not that. It is to share, it is to be consistent, it is to have loyalty, it is to desire good, it is to have good humor, to have goodwill, it is to not want to harm. It is to be considerate, it is to return good for evil, it is to love beauty, to be patient, to be courteous, to act with kindness, to smile always. It is to understand others, it is to put oneself in the place of others, it is to defend them when they are absent. It is to help, it is to be appreciative of the work of others, it is to find everything good and not bad, without being hypocritical, of course. It is to look for the good and the beauty in everything, as the Master Jesus did, for example, when, while walking along a road with the apostles, they came across the corpse of a dog, in a state of decomposition. The apostles covered their noses and eyes, and rolled up their sleeves so as not to contaminate themselves. The Master looked at the remains of the animal, and commented, "Even the pearls are not as white as its teeth." To love is to teach the one who does not know, and not to criticize and blame him because he does not know, and when it is seen that he does not know. Love is not to give alms in the street, nor to give everything that is asked of us. It is not to provide everything that is lacking to anyone who comes to us. There are people who believe that it is their duty to solve all the problems of others. This is to prevent them from advancing by their own efforts. It is to take away their karma and appropriate it for themselves. Then they complain about the problems and obstacles that they themselves suffer, and that they thought they had overcome. Love is, therefore, to be gentle and humble of heart, and by repeating this affirmation often, love develops in you, I am, etc. If you fear something, you are poor of divine love. The one who loves with divine love, always thinks the truth, sees the truth through the lie, every time a case of illness, crime, injustice, negativity is presented to him. He who is in divine love, does not tell his exploits, the healings he achieves, the problems he solves in others. He who is in divine love does not tell about his exploits, the healings he achieves, the problems he solves for others, because it is proof that he loves himself more than he loves God. When you are doing a treatment, you don't tell others what you are treating, because it wastes your strength. When Jesus healed, he asked not to tell anyone, because referring to it is spiritual pride, or consider more important your feet, your material presence. When you do a treatment for yourself or for another, there is a moment when you will feel peace. Master Fox called it, the descent of the Holy Spirit. When you feel the Holy Spirit, stop asking or treating. Wait with faith and peace. That means that the treatment has already taken effect. Many times you feel the desire to sigh. It is a sure sign that the treatment reached the person being treated. Intelligence. This is the fourth main aspect of God. God is not only intelligent, but is intelligence. God is everywhere, and is intelligence, so everything contains intelligence. Meditate on this, so that you will come to an amazing conclusion, that not only animals and plants are intelligent, but also inanimate objects. They are composed of atoms. Everything is made of atoms, and the atom is intelligent. The nucleus of the atom is light, and that light is intelligence. It is God, it is energy. It moves, it circulates, it feels, it adheres to what suits it, or repels what does not serve it. It obeys the law of attraction, which in soul-religious terms, is love. The atom, then, is composed of the two main faculties or conditions, whatever you want to call them, universal, intelligence and love, the father and the mother, the positive and the negative. Later you will meet this aspect again, in the law of generation. The substance of all that exists is intelligence. It is atomic energy which is God. We do not see intelligence. It is invisible, but we see its effects, like all aspects of God. When there are things in your life that are not going well, treat them by reminding them that they are intelligence, and you will see them repair themselves. No matter what it is, your body, your organs, your electrical appliances, your plants, animals, and even your clothes, you speak to the article, and remind it that it is intelligence. You speak to the item, and remind it that it has divine intelligence, and cannot run contrary to it. You tell it that it was invented to bring harmony to your life, and it can't be disharmonious. You will see miracles, because if it is damaged, it will respond instantly to any physical treatment that is done to it. If we attribute to God every quality of an infinitely intelligent, loving, tender, just, infinite and all-powerful God, He will manifest Himself to us. The Bible says that God communicates to us, "What you think I am, that will be for you." We should do treatments to make us smarter, at least 3 times a week. When children are bringing bad grades in their studies, they should be spoken to the higher self in them, and reminded that He is the divine intelligence. They will respond immediately. Children always respond. And by treating a person, that treatment is never erased again, and even if it is 50 years or more from now, they will show themselves to be a better and more intelligent person, because of the treatment that was done to them as a child. Bless the intelligence, in your employees or your co-workers, in your relatives, in everyone who shows signs of stupidity, etc. Every organ and every cell is intelligent. When someone shows lack of sight, hearing, health, bad teeth, hair loss, excessive fatness, it is necessary to let him know that it would not be intelligent to have formed a body that needs all that to exist on this planet, or that they decompose when they are most needed. You have to talk to the organs and cells, and tell them. If you already know this and you do not comply, the evil you do to them will be returned to you, enlarging the defect. When the human race has understood that God is intelligence and that He is in everything, the belief in old age and death will be eliminated. Disease and ugliness will have disappeared. These aspects of God allow us to think of Him in an intelligent way, and this is prayer. Every time you think of one of these aspects, you are developing it in you. Every time you affirm them in you, they will increase. Whenever you have a problem, remember the aspect it is related to, say it, affirm it, relate it, and it will be fixed. Unity, individuality. God is one, you and I are individualizations of the one God. Understand that it is not your body but your higher self, your Christ, your divine spark, whatever it is called, that is an individualization of the one God. Your body is a part of your carnal consciousness, which has been made to be able to mobilize on planet Earth. It is only the cover of all that is you. You are the presence of God, wherever you are, which does not mean that you are an absurd little personal God. You are like the light bulb, or a light bulb in the electric current. When turned on, it represents light, without being the only light. The current is present in the whole circuit, but it becomes conscious in the lighted bulb, we could say so. When we come to understand that we are individualizations of God, it cannot make us vain. It must give us humility and self-confidence, as well as take away our fear. God individualizes himself as man, as angel, as space, as time, as cell, as atom, as sun, as light. Individual does not mean, as many people believe, separate. On the contrary, it means integral part. Because God can be individualized in countless different beings. Being life, he is individualized wherever there is life. For many this will be a very new idea, and they must meditate on it until they understand it. It is not quickly mastered. You must ask for light, and beware of jumping to conclusions. When you suddenly have a task, which seems too big for you, you must turn to the aspect of God, oneness, and believe that God is working through you. If you understand this, you will see how wonderfully you will perform. The issue then becomes our business, one with God, instead of our business. One with God, instead of my business, yours alone. Man is the instrument, and God is the actuator. Spirit. God is spirit. What is spirit? It is that which, though invisible, cannot be destroyed, damaged, harmed, degraded in any way. The spirit cannot grow old, nor die, nor deteriorate, nor grow weary. It cannot know sin, nor resentment, nor disappointment. It is the opposite of matter, but when spiritual conditions are recognized, matter is coupled to them. That is to say, matter wears out and the spirit does not. It is substance, that which is not subject to decay, nor to discord. When you think of spirit, it causes a renewal in the aforementioned condition, because spirit is the opposite of matter. You are spirit. Thou, in truth, shalt not die. Matter is not, of course, an illusion. It exists and disintegrates, but it is not your truth. It is only a vehicle, to mobilize the spirit on earth. She heeds and obeys the orders, which are lovingly given to her, because the cells are intelligent, and are entities under the government of the element of your body. Which is the same one that has integrated and disintegrated you, since you first incarnated on this planet. Love it. Speak to it, and thank it for its selfless service, through so many thousands of years. For the elementals do their work, and all they expect is gratitude and love, from the one in whom they perform their mission. You are superior to all of these, matter, elementals, cells, etc. You give an order, when you think or remember, that everything you are seeing contains God, the perfection. When you finally come to understand that everything is a spiritual idea, that is, a creation of God, because even the false creations called human creations, are made with divine substance, which man arranges with thought. That is, when you know the truth, that thing, whether it is a damaged organ, or any negative condition, receives the order to manifest the spiritual truth, and fulfills it. These commands, you can give to everything animate and inanimate. From your body and your circumstances to your shoes, your watch, your house, a chair, a telephone, a television set, etc. Inanimate objects are spiritual ideas, given to man through his mind, which is part of the divine mind. They must march to perfection, because in perfection they came from the divine mind, for the welfare of man, the Son of God. Those, who are not yet familiar with spiritual laws, will feel strangeness before these data. Do not believe me. Check everything, and if you have not read the previous booklets, proceed to read them chronologically, in order to understand what you are reading. Principle. The seventh principal aspect of God is principle. What is principle? Let us proceed to consider some examples already known to you. Water seeks its own level, is a principle. All water, all over the earth, never bends or breaks. By tilting a glass of water towards the earth, the water remains horizontal, that is, it seeks its own level, horizontal. This never changes. You cannot force it to climb a hill vertically. You can push it mechanically, to reach a higher level, and by steps, take it to the top of the hill. You can drop her from a higher level to a lower level, but at either level, she remains horizontal. That is her level, and she adapts to it. Matter expands under heat. It is a principle, and that is why it never varies. The angles of any triangle always add up to 180 degrees. These principles have been true for billions of years, and will continue to be true billions of years from now. They will never change anywhere. God is the principle of perfect harmony, therefore, whatever God the Creator does, must be in accordance with perfect harmony. If we are not seeing it this way, the defect is in our sight, inner or outer. The scientific prayer that we study in these teachings, does not try to change the laws, nor does it ask God to transform a law to please us. It attunes us to the principle, and we see how the perfect thing comes out. Just as when you want to listen to a special program on the radio or television, you seek to tune your set to the wave of the station, so when you want to proceed in a certain way, you think of God or the related law, or the entity who is in charge of that department, ascended master, archangel, Elohim, etc. Or simply in your inner Christ, which is your higher self, and ask for light, help, inspiration, and you will see manifest what you ask for. Insist on your right, that perfect harmony is the law of being, and you cannot be denied what you ask for this is a most powerful affirmation, for it is truth, and truth is God. These 7 aspects of God are each an element. God contains them all at once, just as a flower presents at once fragrance, color, form and texture. However, we can speak of each aspect separately. God is the name given by religion to the Creator. Mind is the metaphysical name, and cause is the name given by science. The universe is the effect of cause, or God. God is good, He is good, therefore the universe must be good. Dr. Fox recommends to do the treatment for divine love, and replace the word love by the word of the aspect you want to develop in you. Religion says love, science says law of generation, religion says life, science says law of mentalism, religion says good and evil. Science says positive and negative, or polarity. Religion says God is the principle of all things. Science says cause and principles. On the next page, we will begin to study the principles. Do you see how this series of aspects, which present the soul, sentimental or religious part, are linked with the scientific or mental part which follows, forming, as it were, a circle? The principle is one. However, now we are going to study it in a 7-fold aspect. The 7 universal principles. Mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, generation. Repeat this list in the order given, until you know it by heart, but always remember that the division and enumeration are used only for ease of understanding. Since the 7 principles are one, they act together, in everything and always. In the first part, Metaphysics within the reach of all, you study the principle of mentalism, which is the initiation into the truth behind all that is visible and sensible. That is, the higher initiation, which is not reached until the human being intuitively desires it, seeks it and accepts it gladly when he finds it, because he recognizes in it the answer to his inner questions. If you, at some point during the process of these studies, feel the desire to argue and refute, do not do it. Simply put aside the point that is difficult for you to accept, and continue reading everything else. If you find that you do not agree on anything, it is useless to continue reading, you are missing steps or stepping stones. You will find them in the course of your ordinary life. These studies produce peace and serenity, and if what they produce in you is the desire to enter into controversy, it is clear that the time has not yet come for you to desire peace. You still want war. Up to now, and through the 2 previous parts, you have had glimpses of the 7 principles. In this 3rd part, we go into a little more detail, each of the remaining 6 principles, starting from the principle of mentalism that you already know. And I have said only, a little more, and not, in depth, because the breadth is acquired by meditating on them. It is your own spirit that instructs you. I only direct your attention. The kingdom of heaven is within you, said the Master Jesus, and he also said, the kingdom of God is at hand. That which we call God is infinite, without limitations. If we say that God is this, or that he is not that, we are defining him, and therefore limiting him. God cannot be defined by us. The finite mind cannot contain the infinite. It would be equivalent to trying to put the sea in a boat. Now, that nothing prevents filling and emptying the same boat, as many times as desired, or as many times as necessary. Thus, we study God in parts. Each part gives us a little more understanding, and at the same time we improve in quality, since the more we contemplate the good, the more we improve our being. You have already seen 7 parts or aspects of God. God is love, life, truth, intelligence, unity, spirit and principle. In analyzing this last of the 7 parts, the principal aspect, we find that it is also subdivided into 7. It is because it consists of a single principle, that it has 7 faces, already enumerated above. Our universe functions on a 7-fold basis, 7 aspects of God, 7 universal principles, 7 years in each stage of man. 7 planets around the sun, 7 musical notes, 7 months of gestation, before a human being can survive the air, and so on. As man becomes conscious, he discovers greater dimensions in everything. In the sector of the universal principles, some as generation, polarity first, and later rhythm and vibration, were being recognized and applied scientifically, in certain studies such as biology, botany, electricity, music, etc. But it was ignored that they could work in all creation, subjective and objective. There have always been masters and avatars, beings more advanced than the rest of humanity, who have known everything related to the principles. Today the great mass of mankind has acquired the capacity to understand 7, and knowledge is accessible to all. There is no longer any need for those organizations, called occultists, the only ones who know how to practice and apply the immutable laws. The principle of mentalism. The first principle of Hermes, that is, the most important of all the principles of creation. You have already learned this principle in the textbook, Metaphysics within everyone's reach. Its motto is, everything is mind. You already know that everything is mind and you have proved it, and I repeat here, do not accept anything that you cannot prove. Whatever tastes like something you can't taste, leave it for later. You will already feel what I call, the shot, without you even needing to consult with others who are more advanced. You know that thoughts are things. They are matter, and they manifest themselves outwardly. They become events, illnesses, stumbles or rewards, misfortunes or happiness, depending on whether they are negative or positive, and that no one is to blame for what may happen to you in your life. Only you are the producer of everything that comes to you or happens to you. Everything depends on the mental climate in which you live. If you are constantly in a bad mood, don't be surprised if you are treated badly. If you are cheerful, smiling, happy, optimistic, don't be surprised that you are popular, loved, welcomed everywhere, and that everything that happens to you is good. We have free will, to choose good or evil, negative or positive. Be it done according to your word. What you expect to happen, what you decree to happen, will happen. What you deny, will not happen. When you change your way of thinking, the outer manifestation is transformed. St. Paul the Apostle expressed it, we are transformed by the renewing of our minds. If you feed certain ideas, you have no power and no way to change the consequences. These are the things, which you will see happening on the outside. Every condition and situation in your life, is the embodiment of a belief, which you have in the subconscious. It is lodged there, and producing its equal on the outside. Your true beliefs are what you see manifested. But there is a great difference between what you truly believe, what you think you believe, and what you think you ought to believe. It is not difficult to distinguish between these three things, because since you will not see happen but what you really believe, you can judge for yourself. You have heard it said many times, that we are made in the image and likeness of God. That means, we are creators like Him. God created the universes with His mind. We create our world, with our mind. The world we live in is neither bad nor good. Everything is judged with the crystal that we see it. I will give it to you with the following example. Think of a lamp. Think of it with a light bulb with 100 spark plugs. Now put a green lampshade on it. The room and all the objects in it have been affected. All have a greenish tint, the clean colors have become dirty. The eyes have blackened, everything has darkened. Now change that screen, and put up a red one. Everything has been transformed. The greens have become dirty, the reds have become brighter. They are the same objects, but seen with a different pair of eyes. You know that behind that screen, there is always the white bulb with 100 spark plugs. What you are seeing is not a lie. The color is there, but it is only an appearance. The true color is another one. You can remove that color, at any time you want. It exactly happens in your life. Change your belief, change the mental position you are holding, and everything will be transformed. And why has it not been known before? Why is it not taught by religions, sects, or other occult organizations? That is the question asked by the disciples of this new teaching. Because all the other organizations that seek the truth, are the steps that we have been taking in our evolution. Those steps have been appearing on earth, as humans could bear them, understand them, absorb them. All the people, who are adhering to those sects and religions, it is because they still need them. All those who are studying the new teaching for the age, have already surpassed the others. This instruction is that of the enlightened and initiates. It is the one studied by the wise astrologers, the so-called Magi kings, who visited the child Jesus in Bethlehem, the high priest's companions of Moses. In short, what Hermes Trismegistus taught, which has never been hidden, but for minds that could not yet assimilate it. Already today the majority of humanity is sufficiently adult to be able to digest the higher teachings, which begin with psychology, metaphysics, Hermetic principles, and then what we will give in due course, in this clear and simple form. Principle of correspondence. The first sentence of the Bible says, "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void." In the second part of the booklet N²1, Metaphysical Meaning of the Ten Commandments, you learned the threefold symbolism used in the Bible. And you also got an idea of the way in which the principle of correspondence works, whose motto is, "As below is above, so above is below." Which is to say, that in our own earthly environment and in all that surrounds us, we can read, decipher and translate, as these same things occur, on other planes. That every action and every condition, has its analogy or correspondence, in all other planes of existence, always taking into account that, as life rises, experiences and powers are expanding. Let us look at it. Let us take an earthly example, and according to the principle of correspondence, let us deduce what this God is really like. Which we are urged to love, in spite of the inconceivable image of cruelty, which the teachings have given of Him. How many times have you felt dissatisfied, annoyed, before the great mystery, that human beings are born in original sin by a fault of Adam and Eve? What has your common sense blown in your ear? Have you not said to yourself, "But what devils will I have to do with a couple that existed, if it existed, thousands of centuries ago, and how long will we be paying the debt?" Hasn't your common sense told you that? And haven't you forced it to remain silent, for the simple fact that your elders taught you not to analyze divine mysteries, under the threat of some terrible punishment? Under the threat of some terrible punishment? And in the face of that other mystery that has always perplexed you, God knows everything, have you not asked yourself, do you mean to say that He knows before a creature is born whether or not it will be condemned to eternal fire? And before you dared to know the question that follows, someone said to you, be silent. We are not allowed to probe the designs of God. Has not your common sense suggested to you, that an image of such cruelty, cannot be worthy of love? Common sense, that which someone classified, the most common of the senses, is the expression of divine wisdom, on this our human plane. You already learned this in part 2. If you noticed that some of those around you lack common sense, you can be sure that, if it is not mental retardation, it has been so restrained and repressed his mind by those who have surrounded him, that he does not dare to trust his own discernment, and always goes out to consult the opinion of others. What does he manifest in his common life? Confusion and nonsense. The Bible says that man is made in the image and likeness of God. What does an ordinary man do when he is driving his car and a child crosses his path? Does he not make a superhuman effort, braking with all his body, his senses and his reflexes? Does he not forget his own life, throwing the car aside to save the life of the child? According to the great mystery quoted above, man should emulate the insensitive deity he knows, and continuing glacially on his way, run over the child, and leave him gutted in the middle of the street. For if man, who is barely an atom in creation, puts all his poor resources in favor of a strange child, then the infinite, almighty God, our Father, whose essence has formed that man, has infinite resources to redeem, protect and save his infinite creation. This is the way to apply in practice, the principle of correspondence that says, as above is below, so below is above. By studying the monad we arrive at the angel, said Hermes. We cannot judge and appreciate exactly how is a condition of life superior to the one we are living. A poor man thinks of a rich man, how pleasant it will be to have everything. He is not experiencing it, and cannot fully appreciate it, until he finds himself rich. Yet he can anticipate the pleasure, judging by what he himself feels when he achieves satisfaction, according to his economic level. The same thing happens between planes or dimensions. The ant lives in the first dimension. The mind in it is nothing more than an instinct. It is not even possible for it to calculate the life of a man. This is what I wanted to get to explain the term consciousness, that we use so much in metaphysics, and when we mention the spiritual consciousness, and the material consciousness, the right of consciousness, etc., 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 etc. It is the state of advancement or backwardness. It is to be aware of something, in full knowledge of something, by the fact of experiencing it in one's own flesh, or in one's own mind. If it were possible for the ant to meditate on man, and if it could be taught to apply the principle of correspondence, then it would be necessary to say to him approximately, a man is a being like you, who makes his house like you, who also looks for food, who has his government like you, and rules of good coexistence, like you. Nothing else can grasp him, because nothing else has entered his plane of consciousness. On every plane there are advanced ones, who are almost ready to ascend to the next plane of consciousness, and who already glimpse or sense the higher conditions. Among the animals there are dogs, horses, etc., of which it is said, it lacks little to speak. Among men there is a Jesus, for example, who condescends to return to a lower plane, with the purpose of teaching how to advance. We are already between planes, living and learning the conditions of the mental plane, to which we are graduating. It is said of us that we are developing spiritual consciousness, that is, we are becoming aware of things unsuspected by the great majority who live in material consciousness. This is why the great majority rejects the idea that the flying saucers could be spaceships directed by supermen, who come to scrutinize us, just as we would stop to scrutinize a little bird in its nest, hatching its eggs. They don't love us badly, they just snoop on us. As below, so above. The principle of vibration. This is the third Hermetic principle. Its motto is, everything is in motion, everything vibrates. Let us begin by thinking of the propeller of an airplane. When it is stationary we see the blades, two wooden oars fixed to a shaft. Suddenly they start moving, accelerating, and after a while we see nothing. They become transparent. This is what happens with high frequency. This is why we do not see the disincarnated spirits. They live here in our midst, but in a different vibrational frequency than our flesh and blood bodies. On the other hand, the immobility of a rock, which also moves at its own frequency of vibration, is because its vibratory rate is excessively slow. Positive thinking vibrates at a very high frequency. Its colors are bright, clear, luminous. Negative thinking vibrates slowly, and its colors are opaque. The more negative, the darker and lower the tone of its sound. Positive thinking, as the mind that is polarized in positive plane, cannot be overpowered by a low vibration, unless there is some negative concept or idea, gripped somewhere in the individual. Or unless the individual allows his or her thinking to become negative. Jesus said, "The God of this world comes to me, and finds nothing in me to hold on to." The God of this world is the negative pole, which is what prevails in most minds. The positive pole, as we have already established, is of high vibration. The negative pole, low vibration. The low sounds are of slow vibration. High sounds are of high vibration. The dark colors are of low frequencies, and the bright colors of high frequency. Everything that is matter, is always in circular motion. Revolving around something bigger, like the planets revolving around the sun. This is the universal pattern, for everything material. The Hermeticists have always taught the vibratory motion of light, heat, magnetism, cohesion, which is the principle of molecular attraction, which we commonly call love. The same as that great mystery, called gravitation, or gravity. Today everyone knows the relationship between movement and sound, although it has not yet been studied on our earthly plane, that is, no one yet considers it of great importance. Who has not perceived the hum of an electric fan, rotating at maximum speed? The rotation produces different musical sounds. A passing airplane emits a musical sound, from which several tones are emitted. These are called harmonics, as is known to musicians. When a musical note is struck, say on a piano, two other notes are struck in higher octaves. The tones that sound are a third and a fifth note of the struck tone. This harmonic combination is called the major chord, usually. The human ear does not perceive sounds that pass a certain frequency. When something rotates, emitting a sound that is increasing in speed, past the frequency imperceptible to the human, you begin to see degrees of color, starting with dark red. As the speed increases, the color becomes brighter, then goes to orange, then to yellow, from there to green, to blue, to indigo, and finally to violet. If the speed increases, it becomes white, and from there on, the rays called X's occur, then electricity, and finally magnetism. Further on, we will be in mental and spiritual planes. Einstein said that the more he studied electricity, the closer he came to the spirit. For humans, these things are still unexplainable. They belong to the subtle planes, where our astral, etheric, emotional, mental and spiritual bodies reside. The states of mind vibrate, and launch into space those vibrations, in sounds and colors. All the mental states, are launched to the outside of the body that creates them, they go hitting related bodies, as do the musical instruments. And these vibrations, affect in good or bad to other minds, increasing the emotional and mental states, which are in tune with them. For example, if someone gets angry, throws vibrations of anger, which are magnetically attracted by another who is also angry, they increase each other. The emotional state gets worse and worse, and can even lead to crime, when the affected persons do not have the habit of controlling themselves. Thoughts and ideas about God, about the masters of wisdom, about the higher self, or about everything noble and pure, have very high vibrations. These raise any lower vibration, can cure diseases, solve problems, etc. The principle of polarity motto: everything is dual. Everything has two poles, all its pair of opposites, the similar and the antagonistic, are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes touch each other. All paradoxes can be reconciled. This fourth great Hermetic principle contains the truth that all manifested things have two aspects, two poles, which are a pair of opposites, with innumerable degrees between the two extremes. Those ancient and eternal paradoxes, which have confused minds such as, everything is and is not, at the same time. Thesis and antithesis are identical in nature, and extremes touch, are explained, if one meditates on this principle. The law of polarity explains that what exists between diametrically opposed things is only a matter of degrees, and affirms that any pair of opposites can be reconciled by applying this law. Let us consider this principle at different levels. On the physical plane, we observe that heat and cold share the same nature, differing only by degrees. The thermometer indicates the levels of temperature. The lower end is called cold, while the upper end refers to heat. Between these 2 points, there are multiple degrees of hot and cold, and within this scale, the upper end is warmer, compared to the lower, which is colder. There is no fixed boundary, everything is based on proportions and degrees. In the thermometer, there is no specific point where the heat ends, and the cold begins. It all comes down to vibrations, whether they are higher or lower. The words, high, and low, that we use, are simply 2 extremes of the same reality. They are relative. The same is true of east and west. If we travel around the world in an easterly direction, we will eventually arrive at a point called the west. If we go far enough north, we will find ourselves heading south. This same principle manifests itself in light and darkness, which are ultimately one and the same thing. Where does the darkness determine? Where does the light begin? What is the difference between big and small? What is the difference between hard and soft, between black and white, between positive and negative? The musical scale is the same. Starting from B, we arrive at B. The same principle operates in the same way on the mental plane. Love and hate are considered diametrically opposed and irreconcilable. But if we apply the principle of polarity, we find that there is neither absolute love nor absolute hate different from each other. The two are but terms applied to the 2 poles of the same thing. Starting at any point on the scale, we find more love and less hate, if we ascend it, or less love and more hate, if we descend it. There are many degrees of love and hate, and there is also a middle point, where liking and disliking are mixed in such a way, that it is impossible to distinguish them. Courage and fear also fall under the same rule. Pairs of opposites exist in everything. Where we find one thing, we also find its opposite. The latter is what makes it possible to transmute one mental state into another, following the lines of polarity. Different things cannot transmute into each other, but things of the same kind can. For example, love cannot transmute into east or west, but it can transmute into hate, and likewise hate, by changing its polarity, can transmute into love. Courage can be transmuted into fear, and vice versa. Hard things can become soft, and so on, transmutation always taking place between things of the same kind, but of different degree. In the case of a cowardly man, if his mental vibrations are raised along the fear value line, he will be filled with courage, and will despise danger. Likewise, the lazy can become active and energetic by simply polarizing along the line of laziness-diligence. Once the principle of polarity is understood, it is immediately seen that the mental changes, which we wish to see in our enemies, friends, our children, employees, etc., are possible by applying the law. It is like producing a slide along a scale, namely, it is not a matter of transmuting one thing into something else entirely, but of reducing it to a simple change of degree of the same thing. Mental states belong to innumerable classes, each of which has its opposite, and along its own line, transmutation is possible. Spirit and matter are poles of the same thing, the intermediate states, or planes, being a matter of vibratory degrees only. These two poles, in all that exists, are themselves classified by their vibratory degree, that is, their frequency, into positive and negative. Thus, love is positive, hate is negative. Faith is positive, fear is negative. Activity is positive, in relation to inertia. White is positive, black is negative. Truth is positive, lie is negative. Prosperity is positive, lack is negative. The higher is positive, and the lower negative. We must remember that the tendency of nature is in the direction of the dominant activity of the positive pole. In addition to the change of pole, of our own mental states, through the art of polarization, the phenomenon of mental influence in its many phases shows that the principle can be extended to encompass mental influences. That is, that mental states can be produced by induction of others. It is therefore possible to polarize an environment, a situation. Most of the results, obtained through mental treatments, are obtained by applying this principle. As students of metaphysics, we never use this principle in any other sense than that of the good. For as will be seen later, in the principle of rhythm and the principle of cause and effect, which are the laws of the boomerang, what we do to others, is return to us in an identical form, sooner or later. The practice of this principle allows us to better understand our own mental states, as well as those of others, and makes us certain that those states are purely a matter of degrees. We can raise the lower vibrations at will, changing the polarity, and making us masters of those degrees, instead of their slaves. This law allows us to help others intelligently, polarizing situations. For example, you know how to greet, recognize and awaken the Christ in your fellow man. It is simply remembering that the higher self, the I am, the truth of the other is perfection. In New Age language, it is called the Immaculate Concept. The more you employ this practice, the more you will forget the faults you have seen, or saw, in others. The time will come when they will not affect you in the least. Because you will feel perfectly sure that this neighbor and brother is only manifesting a lie, that just by knowing it, you elevate his vibratory rate to the positive, his truth. The vibratory frequencies of a trained metaphysician often succeed in transforming an environment he enters, simply by his presence. Just by the sight of his eyes, his smile, his peace and joy, he polarizes mental states. With a few positive words, he transmutes negative foreign concepts prevailing in the environment. Because he changes the mood of those present, they are filled with hope, where before they were hopeless. In this sense, the power of Jesus was so great that when he saw the sick being healed, he told them, "Do not sin again." The degree of realization that the student, the practitioner, has in recognizing the Immaculate Concept in others, over and above or in spite of the appearance that they are manifesting, heals completely or improves the condition. It all depends on his own faith. Remember that faith is knowledge. The metaphysician knows that the disease is an appearance produced by a mental form, creation of the individual. It is ignorance and credulity. He knows that eternal truth is life. He knows that a disease is manifesting itself, because that brother is actually believing in the mental form he has created. The gospel says he is bewitched by his own creation. Let us say that it is belief in the permanence of his own creation that he is living. According to the principle we are studying, we already know that it is possible to polarize, transmute one's own creation, by sliding the mind upwards, along the line of the positive, thinking health and life. Life is life, it cannot become death. You can think death and produce it, but by thinking life, you transmute death into life. Life is indestructible. It is foreseen that life itself, unless human minds block its way, with their erroneous beliefs. Against whatever you choose, no one can, but you. If you prefer to place yourself in the negative pole, you will have everything that belongs to it. If you prefer the positive pole, you will have everything that belongs to it. To the positive pole belongs the smile, to the negative pole belongs the frown. If you want to change the pole in the middle of a negative manifestation, smile, declare the good present in the manifestation, bless it and add, and I want to see it. That is all. You will see black transmute into white, sad into happy, evil into good. Try it. Polarize all the situations you encounter, all the environments you enter, all the beings who talk to you. Then you will hear them exclaim, "But how good I feel." Polarize your children, your friends, your employees, your students, and you will then be what Jesus called, the salt of the earth. The undesirable is transformed by changing its polarity. If you yourself do not know how to do it quickly, do it from degree to degree, from condition to condition, from pole to pole, from vibration to vibration. First you have to acquire the art of changing your own polarity in order to be able to change the polarity of others. Just as you can transform the polarity of others, bringing the good with you, so you can bring the negative, wherever you go. These are the so-called turkeys. They are always polarized in the negative pole, and they carry it everywhere. To master the art of polarization, you have to practice it, like everything else you wish to master. The principle of polarity is the truth, and the results depend upon the practice of the student. Law of rhythm. Everything ebbs and flows, everything has its periods of advance and retreat, everything ascends and descends, everything moves like a pendulum, and the measure of its movement to the right is the same as the measure of its movement to the left. The rhythm is the compensation. This principle contains the truth that everything manifests itself in a certain movement back and forth. In everything there is an average oscillation, an ebb and flow, a movement similar to that of the pendulum from one pole to the other, according to the principle of polarity, to which rhythm is closely related. Rhythm manifests itself between the two poles of everything. This does not mean that the rhythmic oscillation goes to the extremes of each pole, for this happens very rarely. It is very difficult to establish the extreme polar opposites, in most cases. But the oscillation takes place towards one pole first, and then towards the other pole. There is always an oscillation, an advance and a retreat, an elevation and a fall, manifesting itself in all things and phenomena of the universe. This law governs everything: suns, worlds, minds, energy, spirit, matter, animals, vegetables, etc. We see it in the history of life in all things, in the rise and fall of nations, that is to say, that in all planes this principle is in function. On the spiritual plane, for example, there is always an emanation followed by an absorption. We emanated from God, are born, we descend into material consciousness, and then we die, we are absorbed into spiritual consciousness. This is our great rhythm. It is an ascending rhythmic evolution, in our birth and death. It is the breath and aspiration of Brahma, as the Brahmins say. The universes are created, reach the lowest point of materiality, and then begins the oscillation back. The suns are born, reach their peak of power, and then the process of decline begins. After countless eons, they become vast masses of inert matter, awaiting another impulse to guide them into a new solar life cycle. These are the great rhythms, but we see the principle in everything. Thus in the great philosophical movements, created of any kind, governments, politicians of the moment, they are born, grow, reach maturity, decay and die, only to be reborn again. Everything is reproduced over and over again, in synchrony with the pulse, the smallest rhythm, that we can perceive or feel. Day and night, the seasons, nothing remains static. Each has its own rhythm. We also see it, in all phases of human activity. The tides of life, ebb and flow according to the law, and so we see that we start something with great enthusiasm, we do not know when, or why it declines. And then it comes back, and so we are driven by this principle because it, like all law, is immutable. It is always fulfilled. But by studying it, and knowing that it is always in function, we learn to use it, just as we do with the law of mentalism, or that of cause and effect, or that of polarity. That is to say, that these laws are not good or bad. They simply guarantee the harmonious functioning of the universe, and it is our knowledge and use of them, which makes them good or bad for each person. In this case, for example, we know that we cannot override the principle of rhythm. But neither can we allow, once known, to play with us and take us back and forth, like a blade of straw, but we learn to avoid its effects, to a certain degree. The degree depends on the mastery of the principle. We learn to use it, instead of being used by it. We learn to polarize ourselves at the point where we wish to stay, and rise above the pendulum swing. Everyone who acquires a certain degree of mastery over himself does this to some extent, consciously or unconsciously. The master does it consciously, and by mastery of the law attains a degree of equilibrium, stability and mental firmness, almost impossible for the majority to conceive. Which comes and goes in a continuous undulating movement, always driven by its own rhythm. We know that there are two planes of manifestations of mental phenomena, that is, two planes of consciousness, one higher and one lower. So, if we elevate ourselves to the superior plane, we escape the pendular oscillation, and it only manifests itself in the inferior plane. In other words, the pendulum swing occurs on the unconscious plane, and our consciousness is therefore unaffected. We call this neutralization. Its operation consists in raising the I above the vibrations of the unconscious plane of mental activity, so that the negative oscillation of the pendulum does not manifest in the consciousness, and one is not affected by it. It is the same as rising above a thing, and allowing it to pass underneath. He who knows and practices the law, polarizes himself in the required pole. And by a procedure similar to refusing to participate in the retrograde oscillation, he remains in his position and allows the pendulum to swing backward on the unconscious plane. The law of cause and effect. The mind is an engine. Thoughts are force or energy generated by the mind. This energy leaves our mind in vibrations, in waves that, by the work and grace of the law of rhythm, returns to us, bringing us the future that we have collected. I have just told you that the future is analogous to what we have planted. That is to say, if you do good to someone, or if you speak well of someone, those words or that good act, comes out in color vibrations. That color attracts vibrations of the same color, and they come back to you increasing the good you did. Beautiful things happen to you, miraculous things, and you say, "What a coincidence, look what happened this morning, what a wonder." There are no coincidences. They cannot exist, because the law of chance does not exist. There are only exact laws, called principles, because they are immutable. The principle of polarity fixes what you do and say, in one of the two poles, positive or negative. That is to say, what you think, say or do, is positive or negative. There is no third pole. If you think or speak ill of someone, it is negative. If you have sown it in negative pole, it comes out gray or black. And depending on the amount of evil it contains, it picks up on its way a lot of energy of the same color, and returns to you increasing in strength. You have a collision, an accident, it will always be something unpleasant. There you have, then, the explanation of what happens to you. If you criticize, you will be criticized. If you harm someone or something, you will be harmed, or something of yours will be harmed. If you are unjust, harsh, that injustice is returned to you with the same harshness. Those causes that you sow have to give their fruit and effects before you are liberated. If you sow discord, you must reap discord. If you sow kindness, love, help, you must reap kindness, love, help. Whatever you sow, whether constructive or destructive, you will see it return. How can people continue to believe that they can with impunity be cruel, slanderous, ill-tempered, violent, mean, and expect to have health, love, fortune, happiness? That is, all the good things in life, if they only sow the bad things. The whole world spends it sending hatred, selfishness, arguments, quarrels, and they reap the harvest in confusion, chaos, wars, and troubles of all kinds. It is not always possible to return the harvest immediately. The planet Earth has a huge amount of accumulated debts, from all over the world, and it vents wherever it can, in storms, cyclones, earthquakes, marine disasters, landslides, floods, volcanic eruptions, etc. Many times, the people we have harmed in some way, die before we have been able to settle the account with them, and there must be an opportunity to settle it in the future. Because God is infinite mercy, and does not leave a child of his in eternal punishment, without giving him the opportunity to settle his debts. That is why God has instituted reincarnation. To give the opportunity to pay the debts, and also to give the opportunity to collect the carnal and material good that we have deserved, and that cannot be collected, in an invisible and immaterial plane. It would not be fair that we stay without the prize, to our efforts and goodness. Of course it is about things, which have no prizes but material. One cannot stay there eternally, if one has things pending here. And it must be remembered, that the motto of these studies is, I keep my mind extended. You hear, meditate and resolve to believe, what seems to you fair, logical, reasonable, common sense. What you cannot swallow, accept, leave for later. Some things are so new to you, that it will be difficult for you to accept them all of a sudden, so I recommend you to think about them with a broad, open mind, without closing the door immediately. I warn you from now on, that the brain cells are waking up little by little. If one receives a new idea, there are dormant cells that have not yet vibrated, and that this new idea awakens them. When you have just woken up, you do not yet know very well what is being said to you. After a while, after you have showered, or had breakfast, then you can absorb what is being said, can't you? Remember then, the law of correspondence, as above so below. The same is true for the cells that have just awakened, the law is the same for everything. You are already beginning to see that this strange and mysterious thing that you call reincarnation has its reason for being, based on harmony and divine mercy, and that it is not a strange and crazy thing. It is necessary to keep a broad mind, because everything has an explanation. Reincarnation is a truth, and it is the only logical explanation for the apparent injustice you see. When you observe splendid and constructive people, going through difficult situations, while other so-called bad people seem to be enjoying all the good things in life, you can be sure that there is no mistake or injustice. Do you believe in God? Do you believe He is good? Then how can you believe that He is unjust? Because everyone is encountering the effects of previous causes, which He has caused sometime, somewhere in the past, and of which He has no memory. If these people who have karmic debts, wish within themselves to do service to other individuals, to balance, and erase the bad feelings, listen well, they are free of that debt. But if they cannot achieve these feelings and good wishes, life will bring them together again, as many times as necessary, until it is fulfilled. And each time in closer association, sometimes even mother and child are born, because the law of love is like that. Try to dissolve enmity with love. When between two people, there is an attraction of love and harmony, it is certain, that they were in contact and harmonious partnership in previous lives, and can expand this quality so needed in the world. When you notice a feeling of resistance against someone, it is that the sensations are reminiscent of a discordant or unpleasant association. It is very comforting to know that God's forgiveness for the misuse of His energy is always at hand for those who truly desire it. That, eternal fire, and, eternal punishment, invented by the religions of the past age, to control the world through fear, superstition and blind obedience, is not true. Whatever the causes, the sin, the imperfection, the impurity, the error that has been committed, there is a conscious way to transmute those errors. Do you know what transmute means? It is to dissolve, to erase completely and without cost. When humans realize that they themselves are the cause of all their ills, all their calamities, all the limitations in their world, they suddenly want to fix things, with the help of the Holy Spirit. Suddenly they wish to put things right, with true sincerity. This desire is the one that counts, and it is necessary for them to know that every kind of assistance is given to them. Until that moment comes, the man or woman is in rebellion against circumstances, and even against God. Or they submit to the conditions, believing that they are the will of God, and of course, this is a lie. Now, and this is very important to remember at all times. When the student realizes that the fabrications of his mind are so important that they govern his destiny, and even the destiny of others. When he realizes that all his decrees manifest, and that no one, absolutely no one, but himself, can be blamed for what happens to him. Then he panics, and does what he always does, he looks for someone to blame, someone to punish. And what happens? He releases the body, the matter, blaming him all the responsibility, and proceeds to punish it in the most merciless way. How? You will not believe it, with all the ancient flagellations and tortures, to which the saints and martyrs were subjected, because this is filed in the subconscious, since remote times of Christianity. Of course, no one takes a whip in hand. This is no longer in vogue, but he proceeds to torture himself mentally. He proceeds to watch himself like a policeman, and to say to himself, "Don't you see, you have fallen again. You have done it again. You will suffer the same consequences again." Of course, since this is a decree, the same consequences happen again. Not only that, but it has been offered a carte blanche power to a mental form of guilt, specially manufactured, to continue to torture us at every slip, and not let us get ahead. Every time you punish or scold yourself, with the resulting tortures, remember that it is enough to know that we have sinned. By knowing it, it means that you are already aware of good and evil. It is only a matter of time, and not much time, for your subconscious to attack you before you commit the same sin again. It is the principle of confession. Sin confessed is half forgiven, for Catholic confession has only one purpose, to make us aware of when we have committed an infraction. The priest's forgiveness is nominal. The one who really forgives is the Christ within. He is the one who directs us. The one who guides and teaches us is also Him. All you have to do is to say and repeat to yourself mentally, "My higher self, which is the perfect Christ in me, is the one in charge of leading me without torture, until my ascension." And once you have realized, meditated and understood this, you will no longer sin voluntarily, and the first gates of heaven will open for you. Since all this proves that you have put all your good will, and the greatest master of all times, Jesus, said it. Peace on earth to men of good will. The principle of generation. The motto of this principle is, everything has its masculine and feminine principle. Like all the others above, this principle is always in action. Nothing can exist without the principle of generation, that is, without its father and mother. Everything, absolutely everything, has a father and a mother, or its feminine base and its masculine base. It is not, as is commonly believed, that the base is sex. The word sex applies only to the physical differences that exist between male and female in a very small slice or sector on the physical plane. Think about it and remember. Sex is the difference that exists externally between the male and the female in the great physical plane. In other words, sex is not the principle of generation. It is simply the presence of the male and the female in all creation. Do you understand well? In this sector of the physical plane, the principle is recognized, manifested or shown by the difference of the sexes. On the higher planes, the principle takes elevated forms, but each being contains in himself the two elements of the principle. The world has gone through thousands of conjectures about the truth, which then becomes theories, teachings, sects, organizations, cults, religions. Whatever you hear of sects practicing pernicious teachings is nothing but a prostitution of the great natural principle of generation. All this is antiquated, fallen into disuse. The truth is always simple and natural. For the pure, all things are pure. For the wicked, everything is wicked. The word genus means to create, to conceive, to produce. To produce. While the word sex is limited to organic life. Science has not yet accepted this principle as a universal thing, nor can it even conceive it, because science is situated in the opposite camp. He who is mounted on a horse does not see the legs that make him go. Until he gets off and situates himself objectively, he will not be able to see the legs that make it go. Thus, science, like religion, does not know that the one is representative of the father, and that the other is representative of the mother. Science is the proof that the father exists, that is, intelligence. Religion is the proof that the mother exists, that is, love. God is love and intelligence, mother and father, negative and positive. These are the two aspects of the Creator. It is absurd and ridiculous that science and religion continue to be enemies, father against mother, and vice versa. Science mocks religion, and religion censures, criticizes and reviles science. In this golden age, age of Saint Germain, they are discovering each other, without realizing exactly yet. Metaphysics gathers and explains this truth. Our great master Emmett Fox called this teaching the scientific prayer. It is necessary to make a very important clarification, and that is that one thing is religion, and another is the church, and that most humans do not know the difference, and confuse one thing with the other. Sometimes, naming religion and other times the church, as if the two terms were one. Religion is the set of truths based on universal love. As well as in charity, in the filial and fraternal feelings, in the practice that encloses the love one another, and in that of love God above all things, and your neighbor as yourself. The word religion means something that is doubly linked, that is, relinked, linked by cohesion, and that is absolutely everything. Nor does it need anything else, since that cohesion is achieved by love. We have already said above that the law of attraction, adhesion and cohesion, is the name that intelligence, science, father, gives to love. Love is the term that the heart, mother, gives to the law that attracts, unites and adheres with such potency, that nothing can separate. All that follows, fervor, devotion, charity, etc., are typical of the mother. The role played by the mother in a family, religious and intertwining, all her children through her love, her care, her teachings, her devotion. The attraction that exerts on the whole family, that vibration that is the mother, that even after death, continues to exert its invisible influence, reminding everyone that they are brothers linked by the same father, and linked by the same mother, that is the religion. The church is an organism, or a human organization created by men. The term comes from ecclesia, Latin word that means gathering, that is, set of scattered things. It carries the object of gathering to pray, to practice pious works, to teach, etc. But after the first ecclesia was founded, it soon degenerated into an instrument of threats, punishments, dogmas, rules, indulgences and special permissions, all to force an allegiance to it. Not to religion, understand, but to the laws that ecclesia imposed. Physical and bodily laws and obligations, limitations, rites and obligatory observances, all catalogued by the scribes ordained by those ecclesias. All specially paraphrased, to confuse the terms ecclesia and religion in the naive minds of primitive Christian times. Do you understand now the difference between church and religion? There are very few who love a set of hard, inflexible rules, which are based on fear and threat. Even those who appear to be most addicted to this ecclesia, are only paying lip service to it, feeling threatened. But in their very private lives, especially in their ideas and feelings, they act in a totally opposite way. Science, on the other hand, acts with all the freedom that suits her. She is masculine, even though she is called she. It is based on the earthly intellect, and since it does not feel, because feeling is one thing and intelligence is another, as we have already seen, no one either inhibits it, or forces it, or imposes laws, rules, or punishments on it. The only thing imposed on it is not to kill the human being, and it tries to save him at all costs, even if it is allowed to kill the animals, something so reprehensible, since they belong to the evolution called elementals, which are our brothers, with the same rights to live as us. Science, devoid of sentiment, has taxed bodies in search of that which it hears named, the soul. And not finding it in the matter of flesh and blood, it denies its existence, and it goes on the face of the earth denying the existence of God. The soul, in general terms, is the set of lower, subtle bodies or vehicles, in which the senses, feelings, emotions are rooted. And needless to say, if one works on a dead body, from which the soul has been separated, it is not possible to find traces of that feeling, nor those senses called the soul. What imparts joy or suffering to the body is the soul. When the body is alive, the surgeon puts it to sleep so that it does not suffer, but he ignores that it is the soul that suffers. However, science is already discovering things that make it think. To think about another aspect of the matter, it is understood. First, it found that the atom is not the end of matter. The atom, that established pattern of the human family, is not the tiniest design in existence. It can still be subdivided into a multitude of sister corpuscles, little children, etc. Repeating the established pattern to infinity, etc. As above so below, and vice versa, does not the principle of correspondence say so? We always find the mother, with her little children turning in contour. And since, as below so above, we are expanding the design, until we find almost at the level of our eyes, that the eternal pattern is always in sight in the sun, with its planets rotating in contour, just like the design of the atom. Science, a little confused with so many evidences, of the feminine pole and the masculine pole, first tried different names for these manifestations. At first it called the feminine pole negative and the masculine pole positive, but as time went by, it was found that there is nothing more opposed to the weak negative than the feminine pole, which generates precisely new forms and energies. Then they used the term cathode, instead of negative, but now it turns out that the cathode is the generator of a whirlwind of corpuscles, electrons and phenomena, which have disrupted all the accepted theories. The cathode, then, is the mother principle of the electrical phenomena, and of the so subtle forms of matter, that science keeps finding. More and more, the cathode is being called the feminine pole, which is much more sympathetic, than the alternative that, the creative corpuscles are charged with negative energy. Warning. There is nothing new under the sun. Nothing you read here is new. Everything has already been said by Hermes. And mainly in the Bible, and in the theosophical literature, dictated by the ascended masters of wisdom, to Helena Blavatsky. A woman, so persecuted and misjudged in less lucid times, none of which can deny her marvelous mediumistic gifts. What is new is the style and the way of presenting this teaching, modern and simplified. The 7 rays. As you know, light is not really white, because in the color white, all colors are contained. Master Saint Germain says, the vibratory action of the different colors is a separate study. Suffice it to say, that the colored spheres that surround your I Am presence, and which are the spiritual aura, or casual body, represent the color vibrations of what are called the 7 spheres. Every life stream on this planet has come from a particular ray, and its own archetype, or its I Am presence, lives in that sphere or ray, to which it belongs. But be it understood, that individual presence is not subject or confined to any sphere, but may visit any other he desires. The unascended individual responds to, or vibrates favorably with, the color of the ray, or sphere, to which he belongs. And he may, by observation of his own habits and tendencies, and by meditation upon his own presence, come to know the rightful position which he rightfully holds in the kingdom of God. He will also find, that he is attracted almost irresistibly, to a certain color more than to others, which is a confirmation. In reality, there are but 3 colors, blue, yellow and pink, called primary colors. By intermingling with each other, they form green, orange and violet, called secondary. So you see that the sun, an incandescent spotlight of light, is constantly projecting in all directions, imparting life, light and color to everything without distinction in the system. The same thing happens in quantities of other systems, each time bigger, because this our solar system, is but an intermediate step, among others of identical construction. It is the universal design that repeats itself ad infinitum, which gives you the rule of the motto, as above so below so above, descriptive of the principle of correspondence. We humans know only 2 examples of this design. The atom is the solar system before ours. When we all have developed clairvoyance, we will know of others. Each system has a central sun, surrounded by planets. In the atom we call it a nucleus, surrounded by electrons. That nucleus of the atom is light, the same as our sun. Einstein said, that light is energy in motion. You will know that one of the definitions, of that which we call God, in metaphysics, is precisely, God is energy in motion. The Bible says, God is light, and in him there is no darkness. According to science, light is of undulatory character, and this undulation is what is called vibration. Whether it comes from the sun, or from the great central sun that is behind our sun, or whether it comes from a light bulb, or whether it comes from the center of the universe. Call it life, truth, intelligence, feeling, love, color, smell, taste, thought, sound. Everything exists because it vibrates with this wave motion, and the only difference between one and the other is the speed of the movement. On Earth, that is, in time, we measure it by seconds. But when we leave time, there are necessarily different measures, which we barely glimpse. Examples: the densest matter is stone. It is said that this densest plane vibrates in the first octave, that is, that the first octave has 2 vibrations per second, the second octave has 4 vibrations, and the third 8. In each octave the vibrations are doubled. Do not forget this. Although a stone may seem static to you, it is not. It vibrates, or moves, at the rate of 2 oscillations every second. As you see created things, plants, earth, water, insects, animals, birds, etc., you will know that they exist because they vibrate. You will know that they exist because they vibrate, and that these vibrations are faster and faster, in higher and higher octaves. The softest sound perceptible to the human ear, is the 4th octave, with 16 vibrations per second. Your music school will be able to inform you about the vibrations of the sounds on the piano. The astral plane vibrates in the octaves from number 4 to number 20, that is, from 16 vibrations per second to 1,048,576. The mental plane begins in octave 21, with the known electric waves. Already in octave 28, the vibrations correspond to thought, and are unknown to science. The spiritual plane begins in octave 45. Octave 47, has its field of action in heat. Octaves 48 and 49 correspond to light waves. Octave 50 belongs to the infrared, ultraviolet and other chemical rays. Octave 57, we call it the octave of truth, and its vibrations are of such a high number, that we call them simply 144, as does the Bible, in chapter 7 of the Apocalypse of St. John. To tell you more would be to go into too deep a depth for this little sketch of the rays that I am presenting to you. We will leave the explanation for the next booklet, which is entitled, Little Method to Understand the Bible. Even here, on the physical plane, colors have virtues and influences. For example, red is exciting, yellow is cheerful. Green is sedative, blue is depressing. But as you go into the spiritual planes, the colors are fired by rays, which even closer to the divine, are flames, the sacred fire, the aura of the Most High. I Am, or the higher self. In the I Am picture that you already know, which you can purchase at the Brotherhood headquarters, surrounding his head you see a large circle of 7 bands, one inside the other. The figure represents your higher self, which is the God of your little solar system. It is a spark of divinity. It is the agent, the representative, or the ambassador plenipotentiary, of God to you. The circle is a 7-colored rainbow, a complete rainbow. Rarely will you have seen the complete rainbow, in the celestial camber. You always see a segment, just a piece of the great circle. What I am showing you is your truth. It is the aura of your higher self, and it is also called the causal body. So are you, for you are the universal design itself. That complete rainbow is your glory. It is what Master Jesus called the treasures in heaven, for in each band of color, are deposited all the constructive acts that you do, and have done, in your past incarnations. All that is noble, all that is good, all that is in accordance with the will of the Father, and with your innate truth. That you will never lose. It is what we call in metaphysics, yours by right of conscience. It cannot be stolen or lost. By the fact of possessing this causal body, you have the right to affirm, I am perfect. You will see that you are not referring to your physical body, nor are you considering yourself an absurdly presumptuous little god. You are talking about your truth, and every time you think about it and practice it, your two systems come closer together, your higher self and your lower self. Your higher self and your lower self are connected, by a cord of light and golden-colored fluids, which from the higher self enters through your head, and anchors in your heart in a triple flame of blue, gold and pink. Man ignores this. And therefore his triple flame lies in a hermetic cell until either he is taught it, or someone voluntarily awakens it, by means of a treatment, in which he calls directly to the Christ in the heart. That little flame that breaks the capsule, and begins to burn and influence the individual, is what we call in metaphysics, the inner Christ. They are two living entities, although separate, but which form, together with the earthly consciousness, a single being. You can, and must, address these two entities, speak to them, love them, invoke the divine protection in them, for they are perfect, you know. And together they form that I, which you constantly name, and of whom you must speak, in the highest and most beautiful terms. As you see, it is the eternal Trinity. You are never alone. That Christ, in the Master Jesus, was the one who said to you, Son, I am always with you. The more you think about it, meditate on it and invoke it, the closer you will feel it. Give him all your adoration, and always remember, that when you are making very high affirmations, you are speaking the truth, because you are referring to your truth, to your threefold flame. The causal body. The colors in the circle or causal body are in the following order: first the blue, immediately at the head. It is followed by the golden yellow, Then always outward, the pink. Then follows the white band, and then the green. Then the gold blue, which for reasons that have not been given to us, is not called orange. And finally, the violet band. From his forehead come out 7 rays, one for each color, through which he radiates his virtues, wherever necessary. This is the macrocosm. We are each one of us a microcosm. And the virtues of each color are as follows. Blue represents the will of God in the macrocosm. The will as virtue, in you. Power, faith, good, happiness, balance and peace. Golden yellow represents intelligence, wisdom, enlightenment, understanding and peace. Pink, divine love, adoration, opulence, beauty and peace, all rays emit peace. White represents purity, art, peace, and achieves resurrection and ascension. Green, truth, health, healing, music, consecration, concentration and peace. Golden ruby, grace, providence, supply, or our daily bread, and peace. Violet, forgiveness, mercy, transmutation and peace. When you have learned these virtues well, you can instantly invoke the entities that govern them, and ask them to surround with their light anyone you wish to do good to. You will, of course, also have to learn the names of these entities, which I will give you in a moment. Government of the Cosmos. By the law of correspondence, as above, so below, the invisible world, or the plants. The invisible world, or the higher planes, the cosmos or whatever you want to call it, has its government with chiefs, officers, directors, and legions of servants. All these are beings, who have lived and evolved in the lower spheres, just as we have. And they continue to evolve, for even the highest beings of light we know continue to ascend and pass from one office to another. One is not idle in those worlds, nor sitting on a cloud contemplating God, and playing an instrument. Says Master Saint Germain. The activities of the Great White Brotherhood are so diversified and so extensive that hundreds of ascended beings are needed to direct the multiple lines of force that assure the progress of the human race. It is impossible for a single ascended master to direct and carry out the diversity of activities of the mind and heart of God. Much less would it be possible for a non-ascended individual to attempt to concentrate the good that he is decreeing for the advancement of our human consciousness. A moment's consideration will show the logic of this statement, and the impossibility of such a service by any individual. If a single individual could provide the means to raise a planet and some 10 billion souls to the Christ state, do you not believe that the avatars who have lived and embodied the Christ power would have already done so? Buddha came and went, then Jesus, opening the way for other lives, who offered their energies and talents from their own worlds, for this evolutionary plan. In our octave, the Great White Brotherhood, was founded by Lord Sanat Kumara, who you already know, was the one who held the Earth in orbit for so many centuries, waiting for someone to emerge who could do so, possessing sufficient light, in order to raise the consciousness of the children of this planet, to the point that they became lords of the flame, and who could then teach other members of the race, to emit their own light. It is the nature of God to allow his children to be co-creators with him. Indeed, it is the raison d'être of the different worlds, where men and women were sent, to experiment with energy, so that they would feel the joy of creating by their own efforts. Ray directors, masters of wisdom. It was already warned, that you are going to find names that will surprise you, because you think they belong to mythological characters, or simply poetic, created by human fantasy. Nothing of that. The era of knowing the truth announced by Jesus Christ has arrived. And the truth is, that every being who has inhabited our planet, as well as those who now inhabit it, and others who will inhabit it in the future, continue to evolve and ascend, studying and working. Remember that what you cannot accept, let it go and move on. Each ray is led by an ascended master, almost all of the human race. An archangel, hierarch of angelic evolution. An Elohim, hierarch of elemental evolution, many other entities of light, and legions of servants who on earth, are given the name of angels, who carry out the orders of the directors. The Elohim were the ones who created the planet Earth. You may have noticed that some Bibles begin the Genesis account with the phrase, "In the beginning, the gods created the heavens and the earth." While other editions say, "In the beginning the Elohim created the heavens and the earth." And the Catholic Bibles say, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." What Moses stated was, "In the beginning the Elohim created the heavens and the earth." And this is in accordance with the teaching received for the New Age, because the Elohim are gods of the elemental kingdom, and these are the builders of all form. The blue ray. First ray, represents the will of God. Ascended Master, it is directed by the Ascended Master Moria. The Master is native of the planet Mercury, but reincarnated many times among us. Among his earthly reincarnations was King Arthur, of the Round Table, Sir Thomas More, great statesman and humanist of the 15th to 16th century, canonized by the Church, with the name of St. Thomas More. The Irish Thomas More, poet and writer of the 18th century. He was the Hindu king who had the Taj Mahal built in memory of his wife. He preserves Hindu appearance and clothes, and lives in India, where he receives those disciples, who ask to be taken there, while their physical bodies sleep. The temple is on the etheric plane. Archangel, the Archangel of the Blue Ray is Michael, called Saint Michael the Archangel, by the Catholics. Beloved Michael is in charge of those who die. With his symbolic sword and his legions of blue angels, he is the only one who has permission to go into the darkness, to free the souls who are prisoners of their errors, and who have no one to pray for them. An invocation to the Archangel Michael makes him immediately proceed to help anyone, surrounding with his blue light a dying person, tearing off with his own hands the ties that bind others to their mistakes. For it will be new and strange to you, to know that misused energy forms ropes and bonds as strong as steel, and that bind the guilty being, preventing him from freeing himself. And that the symbolic sword of Archangel Michael is the weapon with which he cuts and frees the bound ones. The beloved Archangel has voluntarily dedicated himself to this mission, as long as there are disincarnated earthlings who need him. Elohim, the Elohim of the Blue Ray is Hercules, and his complement is the Amazon. You will know that we all have our complement. It is the other half of the original cell, which agreed to divide, to evolve each on its own. Some cells stay together, but those that divide may meet in successive lives, they marry, and those are the perfect marriages on earth. Then, in successive incarnations, they remain with that memory and live looking for other loves, in other marriages. Until at the end of all incarnations, they are always reunited for eternity, in that union of which the Bible says, "What God has joined together, let no man put asunder." Something that religion has confused, believing that it refers to the current marriage on earth, which is nothing but something transitory and of convenience or karmic matter. The Elohim, as we have said, is a hierarch of elemental evolution. One becomes an Elohim as one becomes a master, after evolving and ascending. It is equivalent to the stature of a god, with respect to us, just as man is a god, in the consideration of an ant. The Elohim have at their command the Devas. These beings can build a mountain or an immense lake in 10 minutes, or destroy them, if it is opportune. Every great mountain, every community, every lake, sea, millenary tree, etc., has a deva guarding it. Has a deva guarding it. They are beautiful. In the celestial protocol there is a motto, invocation obliges answer. And it is enough to make the call to any of the entities of light, masters, angels, archangels, Elohim, for them to respond immediately. So it is not true that it is necessary to shout to God, and to offer him 1,009th and sacrifices. The great and mighty Elohim Hercules, attends instantly, surrounds you with his strength, gives you his strength if you are weak, and to anyone you wish to give strength. Many are those who have seen the splendid figure of the athlete, the Elohim Hercules accompanying them, when they have invoked him. The invocation to a being of blue flame gives peace, power, happiness, balance, goodness, strength and will. The yellow ray. Second ray represents the intelligence or second person of the Holy Trinity. It is the ray of wisdom, enlightenment and understanding. As you will see in the attached diagram, it influences students, teachers and all who desire light, information, intellectual help, wisdom and peace. Ascended Master, until recently, its director was the Ascended Master Kuthumi, but he was appointed World Teacher, along with the Ascended Master Jesus, and the position was given to the Ascended Master Lanto. If you do not have the faculty to project your astral body, and if you are not clairvoyant, ask the Master to take you, after your physical body is asleep, to the temple of your choice, for example. Sundays, to the temple of Master Morya in Darjeeling. Mondays, to the temple of Master Lanto on the Rocky Mountains in the United States. Tuesday, to the temple above the Château de la Liberté in Marseille. The Ascended Master Lady Rowena is requested. Wednesday, beloved Serapis Bey is asked to take you to the temple of Luxor in Egypt. Thursday, you ask Master Hilarion to be taken to his temple in Crete. Friday, you ask the Ascended Master, Lady Nada, to be taken to the Pearly Temple, located above Syria. Saturday, Ascended Master Saint Germain is asked to be taken to the Violet Temple, located on the island of Cuba. In all these temples one receives instruction in the application of the flame particular to them. Until recently, the director of the Golden Yellow Ray was Master Kuthumi, who today holds the position of World Teacher, together with Master Jesus. Among his past incarnations, Master Kuthumi was Pythagoras, Magician King Melchior, Saint Francis of Assisi, and Saint Martin Delaware Porres. He, along with Master Morya, projected the Theosophical School, with Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, as the receiving medium. Master Kuthumi resides in Shagats, Himalayan mountains, a few steps away from Master Morya. Archangel, the Archangel of the Golden Ray is Jophiel. Elohim, the Elohim is Cassiopeia. When you desire enlightenment for yourself or others, wrap yourself, or them, in the golden mantle of wisdom and mentalize yourself, or visualize yourself surrounded, by a bright and very soft yellow light. Soft, in the sense of being like a luminous and very light silk. It is also visualized before bedtime, because it gives peace in the light and joy. The pink ray. Channel of the Holy Spirit, it is the ray of divine love. Ascended Master, it is directed by the Ascended Master Mrs. Rowena, her complement, Victor. She has recently taken charge of this direction. Before her, the beloved and Ascended Master, Paul the Venetian, who was the painter Paul the Veronese, in his last incarnation, held the position. Today, the Divine Paul represents the Holy Spirit for the earth. Later I hope to be able to explain to you many things about this great spirit. In the Castle of La Liberté, in Marseille, France, you can see paintings of the painter Paul the Veronese. But in the counterpart of the castle, located in the etheric plane, you can attend an etheric body to the meetings, talk and learn from the entities of the pink flame. And to be impregnated with the emanations of divine love, which give off these wonderful entities, of the pink ray. Of the Ascended Master Mrs. Rowena, we can speak little. It can be known a little, through the pages of the historical novel of the pen of Sir Walter Scott, called Ivanhoe. It is appropriate that already in that book, she was known as the most beautiful woman in the world of the knights of antiquity, and that today she is the director of the pink ray, as who says, goddess of beauty, in that ray of love. The complement of Lady Rowena, the beloved Victor, is invoked to be victorious in any enterprise. Archangel, the Archangel of the pink ray, is called Chamuel, and his complement Charity. Invoke Chamuel when you need money, bless what you have, surround it with pink light, bless what you pay and what you receive. Bless your wallet, your purse, bless the phone, the TV, the radio, whatever is broken and mechanical, and surround it with angels of the pink flame, and angels of mechanics. You will see miracles. Elohim, the Elohim of the pink flame is Orion. The constellation of Orion is always visible over the sky of Caracas. The complement of Orion is angelic, the pink flame is magnetic. When you need to attract something or someone, fill with pink light, mentally, the space that separates the object or person, surround the object or person with pink light, and they will attract each other, in good and pure love. The white ray. It divides the series of primary colors from that of secondary colors. The mixture of all forms the white color. Ascended Master, the director of the white ray is the Ascended Master Serapis Bey, and his temple of the white flame is in Luxor, Egypt. The white flame, named, of the ascension, is the one that acts to purify every being at the moment of his ascension, outside the radius of the earth and forever. The flame assists all that needs to be elevated, all that is depressed, either an economic situation, or a saddened mood, a depressed people, etc. The Master Serapis Bey acted as chief of the seraphim, when they first came to earth, to guard the first human beings. He brought light to Egypt. He was the one who saved the white flame, taking it from the Atlantean continent to Egypt, saving and enlivening it, with his own body and breath, in a small boat with others. Archangel, the archangel of the white flame is Gabriel, the one who announced to Mary. Elohim, the Elohim of the white ray, is called the beloved clarity. He is the purifier par excellence, of all that needs to be cleansed. He is invoked to expand the life and light in every electron, and to clarify the dark. The angels of the white flame are called, the Brotherhood of Luxor. The green ray. It is the ray of truth, of concentration, of consecration, of healing. Ascended Master, the director is the Ascended Master Hilarion, who was St. Paul in his Christian incarnation. Archangel, the archangel is Raphael, physician of heaven. Elohim, the Elohim is Cyclopia, representative of the all-seeing eye of God. Today it is called sight. It is the Elohim of music. He invokes the angels of the green ray, in every disease. Cover with the mantle of truth, all that is presenting a wrong face, all suspicion of falsehood, all hidden things you wish to reveal. Celestial Mary, she who was the mother of Jesus, acts in the green ray, giving protection to the birthing women, and to every child to be born. Put every future mother in her hands, as well as the child, give it to the entities of the violet flame, so that it is born without karma. The ruby ray. Sixth ray. It is also called gold ruby, since there is no orange color. In the spiritual plane, there is no fruit that we know as orange. This was the ray in which Jesus of Nazareth acted. That is why the Catholic Church dresses its cardinals in that color, and adorns its bishops with red. Ascended Master, the director is called the Ascended Master Nada. She is also the patroness of understanding. Archangel, the archangel of the sixth ray is Jophiel. Elohim, the Elohim is tranquility or tranquiline. It is the ray of peace and providence. Invoke them when you are nervous, or when something needs pacification, and before sleeping. The same for provision. The violet ray. Seventh ray, is that of transmutation of karma, forgiveness and mercy. Ascended Master, the director is the Ascended Master Saint Germain, who was among many generations, Saint Joseph, Street Alban, British martyr. The monk medic Roger Bacon, 13th century. Christian Rosenkreutz, founder of the Rosicrucian order, 14th century. Hunyadi Janos, liberator of Hungary, 15th century. Proclus, the great Neoplatonist, 16th century. Sir Francis Bacon, Lord Verulam, 17th century. And finally, Prince Rakoczy, last scion of the royal house of Transylvania, and the Count of Saint-Germain, who acted during the French Revolution, great mysterious figure who saved those destined to the guillotine. He helped to put Catherine the Great on the throne, and having died at the end of the 18th century, he appeared in Paris 3 years after his death. Master Saint-Germain is the avatar of the New Age. It seems that he will not incarnate on earth, as was the case with the Master Jesus, but will act mentally, through advanced persons who have been in preparation for this great mission. The application of the violet ray was part of the knowledge necessary to ascend to the planes of light, and was known only to the great advanced ones. Today is the gift that the Master Saint-Germain brings to the earth, to take it out from below, since soon it will have to begin to ascend the planet, to occupy the orbit of the planet Venus. For the latter will occupy the circle where Mercury travels, and the latter will be absorbed in the aura of the Sun. It is not that it will disappear, this is what is known by the name of initiation, which is experienced by each planet at the moment of inhalation, for it is the same as breathing, outward and inward. As above so below, so above. The moment of inspiration towards the Sun has arrived, that is to say, the inhalation that the Sun performs, attracting towards it each of its planets. 1 step. This step causes many drastic changes in the life of each planet, because in order to change the route, the position, the ecliptic, it is necessary to accelerate the vibratory frequency of all the life of the planet. The planets that have followed their evolution orderly, do not feel disturbances. But the Earth that became so heavy, by the load of misused energies, stagnant in negative forms, and therefore remain attached to the atmosphere, tilted on its axis, and this cannot be allowed to continue, because it would not rise to its new place. In order for it to obey the magnetic attraction, which will be applied to it, at the moment of moving it to its new field of action, it is being straightened, the organisms directed by the great masters of the cosmos. The effect of this change of position is already being felt. The changes of climate, the great heats, the sensation of rush that humans feel. That sensation that makes that when an elevator descends and the door opens, those who are waiting cannot wait patiently for those who are inside to come out. The same as those who wait for the lights to change at the corners, who cannot stand that the car in front of them takes a second to start. Everything is the influence of the change of vibratory frequency, which is made on the planet, and that affects all life. Those beings who are unwilling, or unable because of their backwardness, to seek the truth, to purify themselves by means of these teachings, to use the violet flame intensely, to dissolve all the karma of the centuries. They will have to incarnate on backward planets, after the initiation of the Earth, into the orbit which Venus has been occupying. No child of God is eternally condemned. It is not possible for any particle of God to remain in darkness eternally, its creator being light. But it is highly unpleasant to degrade to inferior positions, when one has been occupying comfortable positions. The elemental world. I must add a paragraph to the revelation I am making to you about the invisible worlds. Invisible for now, because as the era progresses, dormant cells in the brains will awaken, and everyone will be able to see and hear what is happening in those invisible worlds. The saying of Jesus about the last enemy to be defeated, which he said would be death, referred to the fact that we will all be able to see our loved ones, who are in the disembodied planes. To see them, to hear them, to converse with them, to participate in their present lives and they in ours, and therefore, we will know that death does not exist. We will be able to help them, and they will be able to help us. It will be the complete unity of all worlds. Another thing we will learn, is the truth of the elemental world. We will know it, without a doubt, because we will see it and hear it. If what I am about to tell you is impossible for you to believe now, let it pass. But do not hold on to assert that it cannot be true, lest when you are affirming it, a sleeping cell awakens and you see what you are denying. What a compromise! How do you then swallow your own words? The elemental kingdom is made up, brother, of the stories of your childhood. All that which you believed, and then dismissed as puerile, childish, children's fantasies, turns out to be what the Master Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." The elemental kingdom, my brother or my little sister, comprises fairies, gnomes, sylphs, undines, salamanders, and beware, do not even think of denying them, because as long as you repudiate them, you will not manage to see them. Happy he who awakens his sleeping cells, and who is not clinging to his material beliefs, mortal, because he will see the kingdom of heaven. That is the one who enjoys, of the Beatitudes number 1 and 6, equal to 7, that is, 1. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. The poor in spirit is not the same as the poor in spirit. The translators of the Bible, as they were neither poor in spirit nor pure in heart, did not know what this meant, and the translation was wrong. The poor in spirit are those who are not burdened with intellectual riches, which prevent them from believing in the innocence of the kingdom. All those who curl their lips with a sarcastic smile at the fairy tales we are about to refer to are rich, who will find it hard to enter the kingdom of heaven. As hard as it is for a camel to enter through the eye of a needle. Poor things! They will not enjoy seeing the Nomites in their daily task, nor the Undines distilling the water, with which we quench our thirst and bathe our bodies, and water our gardens. They will eat their fruits without love, they will cut the roses without love. They won't see the fairies weaving their tassels from the air, and swaying in the breeze. They won't meet the gnomes making leaves, grass stalks, flower petals, granites of earth. All this will remain Walt Disney movies, for that rich in spirit, who has dirty heart. Have you ever seen some little dots of light, like little worms wriggling in the air? Those are the smallest children of the Father. They are elementals, who have not yet been assigned a task. When they have had their fill of playing in the light, they themselves look for something to do, and the devas and archangels teach them. They learn to imitate water, fire, air, flowers, etc., particles of course, but they have only a rudimentary intelligence, a gift of imitation, which makes them transform themselves into what they see. But when they at last learn to become their object, and reproduce it to perfection in smell, color, form, texture and duration, they exercise their task for centuries. They embody infinite patience. They do not know tedium, although they do know what it is to feel bad, uncomfortable, enduring an environment for which they were not born, such as having to reproduce, in the filth left by humans in the water, on land, among crime, hatred, shame, selfishness. Since the prize they are used to expect, is the approval and love of humans. They do revolt against the lack of love and ingratitude of those they serve. And those are the cataclysms, earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, and all the misfortunes caused by nature, and that are nothing but the rebellion of desperate elementals. Love them, praise them, thank them, especially the elemental that has the task of forming again your body in each incarnation, and keep it in good working order, so that you are not one of those who participate in future natural disasters. And so that the elemental of your body, take care of you and take good care of you, keep you healthy and beautiful. The seventh race. And now to close, here you have, then, all the instruction. With this third booklet, I give you the complete teaching. If you practice with will and with all sincerity, everything that the series of 3 booklets of Metaphysics available to all reveals to you, you will be an anointed, which means to be liberated from the material laws. It is to be under grace. It is to no longer have to fight for anything, since you have the voice and in the word, a wand of virtue. With the only mental and verbal decree, the will of the Father is fulfilled in all our world, and you will not need neither to study, nor to read, nor to look for communications, nor messages. For you will be directed directly by the still small voice of your higher self, which will lead you in everything along the path, which is your own and no one else's, without mistakes or hesitation. To help the development of the flames, we have adopted a booklet, entitled Daily Meditations, which belongs to the literature issued by the organization called, The Bridge to Liberation, and which is directed by the Ascended Master Moria, director of the Blue Ray, under the pseudonym of Tomás Prince. We have adapted the booklet to the Spanish language, for the enjoyment and benefit of the Latin American students. With the development of the flames in you, you will be a candidate for ascension, the most desired state of all, on our planet Earth. For it means to have reached the end of the heavy round of forced reincarnations, having been cleansed of bad karma, to manifest one's own divine plan, for which we were created and sustained through so many eons. For we have already arrived at the final time, at that new world announced by Master Jesus, the hour of salvation and the accepted time. Venezuela is the capital of the New Age. Caracas, the New Jerusalem. The vertiginous race in which we are living, is a consequence of the rush that tortures the planet, to prepare itself to receive the seventh root race, which is to be born in Venezuela. 1,000 children of the seventh root race were born in 1969. It is a race of geniuses, scientists, clairvoyant listeners. They are born mature, cultured, patient and exquisitely courteous. They do not need schools, colleges or universities. As they grow up, their superiority will become evident and proven, and they will naturally take the reins of everything there is, government, chairs, business management and organizations. Because their vast knowledge will point out the mistakes to the most painted, as we say around here. So be prepared. Be alert, and watch the children you will see being born around you, and at every sign of something strange, do your duty to warn the parents and educate them. See that the general ignorance that prevails in the world, has prevented people from being instructed in psychological matters, and you will see every day more and more lamentable misunderstanding, with which parents face their children. The moment that the so-called turkeys are going through, with their delinquency, with their sexual debaucheries, with their endeavor to make all the most annoying noise possible, with their student fights, their university wars, etc., is the result of the clash of a new order against the old order. If parents hasten to study child psychology, they will find themselves conditioned to bear the entrance of the new age, with all the necessary understanding. If they do not, they will find themselves forced to try to study metaphysics, but knowing themselves unprepared, and costing them agonizing toil and struggle. For the first step, for anyone without spiritual consciousness, is psychology. Appropriate invocations, to activate the violet flame and others. I am the victorious presence of the Almighty, who now clothes me in my mantle of brightest light, which makes me and keeps me invisible and invincible, to all human creation, forever. This is an invocation of protection, and is to be done daily, to form a momentum that lasts forever. I am the victorious presence of God, which keeps me wrapped in my pillar of violet fire, lit in all my being in my world, transmuting all my human creations, all energy misused by me against all elements, animals, creatures, all my life, every man, woman and child. Every cause and nucleus of negative, destructive, impure thought, every design, pattern or habit of hatred, jealousy, ill will or dislike, evil speaking, lies, revenge, anger. Let them be transmuted. Repeat this phrase 3 times, and every effect, record and memory, before they can act, manifest or maintain, until I am in a state of perfect purity. Every time we find ourselves repeating some negative, destructive or undeservable ACT, I am the law of forgiveness, and the transmuting flame, of all the errors I have committed. I am the transmuting flame, of all the errors of all humanity. I am ignited in violet fire, free of all human creation, and now and eternally sustained. Beloved presence of God in me, in thy name I declare, I am the resurrection and the life of glory, mastery and power, which my etheric body had in the heart of the Sun, before the world existed. I dissolve all inferior traces, by the power of the sacred fire. I fight against all phenomenal manifestations that are hindering us, at any time. I close the astral door, my aura and the aura of my house. I invoke the angels of the pink flame, to impregnate and surround this manifestation, and I ask the same for the whole planet. I ask for an exorcism to drive away any entity, which is bothering us, or that pretends to incorporate itself in us or in others. In the name of the beloved presence of God, I am, in me, if you know its name say it like this, I invoke, etc. I invoke you and tell you that I love you, and now in love return to the Father, and take care of his business, as I take care of it here on earth. So be it. For those who leave the earth plane daily. In the name of the beloved, I am, presence in me, I invoke beloved Archangel Michael, on behalf of every man, woman and child, who disembodies in this 24-hour period. Instantly cut them off from the magnetic attachments, which drag them down to earth, to the passions and appetites, which may keep them earthbound. Send your angelic hosts to envelop them, and carry them swiftly through the effulgence of the earthly atmosphere. And take them to the plane of light and peace, and prepare them to appear before the karmic tribunal, in their snow-white garments. Accept the good of my own casual body, as an offering before this great council of judgment, that these souls may be taken to the campuses, where they may best learn the law. And may they reincarnate, if necessary, in harmony, to win their individual victories in the light. Thank you, beloved Prince of the angelic host, for your presence among us, for your constant care and protection of us, at the hour of our passing, and in all our days. For all thou art in the lower planes, or darkness. Beloved presence of God, I am, in me and in them, in me and in them, in me and in them, in me and in them. In me and in them, in the name of the beloved Master Jesus Christ, I invoke the angels and entities of the blue flame. Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. Cut the bonds of all those who lie in darkness, who have no one to intercede for them. Beloved Prince Michael, lead them to planes of study, peace and light, thank you. For those who are about to die. Beloved presence of God, I am, in me, I bow to whatever is necessary for this brother, and ask the Holy Comforter, to envelop this soul, and all his loved ones with his peace. May only peace, harmony, happiness and purity be manifested in the last moments he spends on this planet. May she pass quickly and gently from her material temple to the realm of the spirit. For those who are about to be born. Beloved presence of God, I am, in me and in them. Beloved Archangel Gabriel. Ignite the flame of resurrection through and around those who are waiting for the moment to incarnate, to bring to life, the glory of their Christ selves, so be it. To say daily, invoking the entity called, Crystal, of the blue ray. Of the blue ray. Beloved Crystal, I lovingly invoke you, to deliver to you the cleansing of all my past incarnations, from the beginning of time, until today. Purify me all my vehicles and all my world, including all the energy used by me, and make me responsible, in the life and performance of others. Thank you. To say every night, invoking protection for our home, against thieves, nocturnal entities, and wall painters. Angels of the pink flame, come, light the pink flame of divine love, around my house, my windows and my doors, cover my neighbors, my loved ones. And may everyone who touches the edge of this mantle, feel the divine love, and lose all desire to damage the property of others. Thank you. To prevent damage by others, and to do good to those who ask us to do so. Beloved presence of God in me, and in your name I address the Christ and speak directly to him, I remind you that you are a perfect child of God, generous, noble, just, righteous. I greet you, I acknowledge you, and I remind you that you do not want your lower self to conduct itself in any way contrary to the Immaculate Concept. Thank you, for I know that you are already putting order in your temple. I am already in the process of uncovering the lie and the rancor, in us or in others. In the name of the beloved presence of God in me, or in others, I cover this situation with the mantle of truth, the green flame, and desire to see it. Thank you, Father. In any situation that is presenting disharmony, I bless the good in this situation, and I want to see it. Thank you, Father.